IELTS Speaking Part 1, Introduction and Interview. Topic: Your hometown. Question 1. What do you like most about your hometown?
Well, I'd have to say it's the sense of community. Unlike sprawling metropolises where people often live anonymously, my hometown has managed to retain a real neighborhood feel. There's a vibrant local market where vendors know their regulars by name, and there are always community events happening in the town square. It fosters a genuine connection among residents.
Question 2. Has your hometown changed much in recent years? How?
Absolutely, it's undergone a significant transformation, particularly in terms of infrastructure. A decade ago, it was quite a hassle to commute, but now we have a sleek new light rail system that connects all the suburbs to the city centre. On the flip side, this development has led to an influx of chain stores, which has, unfortunately, displaced some cherished family-run businesses.
Question 3. Would you say it's a good place for young people to live? Why or why not?
That's a mixed bag, really. In terms of career opportunities and nightlife, it probably falls short compared to the capital. However, for young families or those who value a slower pace of life, it's ideal. The cost of living is more manageable, and the excellent schools and abundance of parks are a huge draw.
IELTS Speaking Part 2, Long Turn. Describe an interesting conversation you had with someone you didn't know.
I'd like to talk about a fascinating chat I had on a long-haul flight to Sydney last year. I was seated next to an elderly gentleman, probably in his late 70s, who introduced himself as Arthur. We started with the usual pleasantries about travel, but the conversation took a turn when I noticed he was studying a detailed paper map, not a phone. I remarked on it, and his eyes lit up. He told me he was a retired cartographer, someone who actually drew maps for a living before the digital age. For the next hour, he passionately described his craft, the precision, the fieldwork, and the artistry involved in creating a map. What made it so captivating was the philosophical layer he added. He argued that GPS, while efficient, has eroded our innate sense of direction and spatial awareness. He said, when you follow a line on a screen, you're not truly navigating, you're just obeying. We discussed how technology changes not just what we do, but how we think and remember places. I found this conversation profoundly interesting because it was a window into a vanishing skill and a perspective I'd never considered. It wasn't a nostalgic rant, it was a thoughtful critique of progress from someone who had seen both worlds. When we landed, I felt I hadn't just killed time, I'd gained a whole new lens through which to view the simple act of finding my way.
IELTS Speaking Part 3, Discussion. Question 1. Why do you think some people find it easy to talk to strangers, while others find it difficult?
I believe it stems from a combination of personality and conditioning. Naturally extroverted individuals seem to draw energy from social interactions, so initiating a conversation is almost second nature to them. Conversely, introverts, or those who have experienced social anxiety, might perceive more risk in such exchanges, fear of awkward silence or judgment. Furthermore, cultural upbringing plays a pivotal role. In some societies, engaging with strangers is actively encouraged, while in others, it's seen as intrusive.
Question 2. How have the ways we communicate with strangers changed in recent decades?
The most seismic shift has undoubtedly been mediated by technology. Previously, interaction was largely confined to immediate physical spaces, queues, public transport, community events. Now, digital platforms allow us to connect with strangers globally based on niche interests, from gaming to academic forums. However, this has created a paradox. We can have deep conversations with someone on another continent while being completely silent sitting next to a person on the subway.
Question 3. Some people argue that social media has made us less willing to have face-to-face conversations. What's your opinion?
I tend to agree with that assertion, but with a caveat. For a segment of the population, particularly digital natives, the curated, low-risk interaction online can become a comfort zone, making the spontaneity and unpredictability of real-life conversation seem daunting. They might become more adept at crafting a text than reading body language. That said, I don't see it as an irreversible trend. Many people use social media as a supplement, not a replacement, and still highly value in-person connection for building trust and intimacy.
Question 4. What are the benefits for a society where people often engage in conversations with people from different backgrounds?
The benefits are multifaceted. On a societal level, it's the bedrock of social cohesion and tolerance. When you engage with someone from a different walk of life, it challenges stereotypes and fosters empathy, which can reduce prejudice. Economically and intellectually, it's a driver of innovation. Diverse perspectives colliding in conversation often spark creative solutions to problems that a homogeneous group might never conceive.
Question 5. Do you think the skill of making conversation is something that can be taught, or is it a natural talent?
It's certainly a blend of both. Some individuals possess a natural charisma and curiosity that makes conversation flow effortlessly. However, the fundamental components are absolutely teachable. For instance, you can train someone in the art of active listening, how to ask open-ended questions that don't yield just yes or no, or even how to read nonverbal cues. It's akin to public speaking. Natural talent helps, but technique and practice can elevate anyone's ability significantly.